I hear the voices of the animals. I feel what they feel. Um, they send me pictures and feelings and thoughts and words. And I've been very blessed to be able to bridge the gap between humans and animals. But I want to help you learn how to do this as well. So I do believe this is an ability that we all have. It's not just some superhuman ability that only a few like superheroes get to do. It's something we're all born with. And, you know, it's animal communication. You're doing it all the time, I promise you. It's just really believing that you can do it and believing that you can, access this on a higher level. So hang in with me here. I'm going to give you a few really simple steps to get you started with communicating with your own animals. And trust me, the more you practice, the stronger you will get. It's like a muscle. The more you do it, the stronger it will get. You have to trust it. You know, your logical mind, it's that little voice on your shoulder that's always doubting everything and telling you you're making it up and people are going to think you're crazy. That's the logical mind. And once you recognize the logical mind, you can kind of, you can't shut it down completely, but you can turn down the volume. So that's what you want to do. You want to turn down the volume on your logical mind so that your intuition has a louder presence, right? So I always describe it this way. It's like a garden hose, right? If I turn the water on and all of a sudden my garden hose is kinked, that is like the logical mind doubting this flow of energy or this flow of information. So when we turn down the volume on our logical mind and we begin to trust the flow more, we start to unkink the hose. And a little trick to help you do that in the beginning is to just imagine you're communicating with your animals. Pretend, right? Just pretend. You're asking your dog a question and, wait to hear if you get anything back. But if you don't, imagine or pretend they answered you back. And then keep that dialogue going back and forth. The more you do that, you are unkinking that hose, right? You're making that garden hose wider and wider so the flow of information can come through. The logical mind thinks, oh, she's just imagining it, so I don't need to intervene too much. So the logical mind kind of takes a back seat. So it's a really good trick to get the process started. So play around with that. Another thing is to don't feel like you have to be in, the most quiet spot and you can't be interrupted and everything has to be perfect. Listen, we communicate with our animals every single day, right? There are always going to be distractions and such. So just dive in and do it. If you wait for the perfect moment, you may never get that moment. So just dive in and do it. It's okay to communicate with your animals with distractions going on because that's life. So what I tell people to do is you just want to ground and balance your energy. So you don't want to begin communicating with a frazzled energy because animals are masters of reading our energy. So if our energy is all over the place and frazzled, it's going to be staticky. It's like, I don't know, like the sound effects, like picture that kind of energy. So what we want to do is soften that energy. Animals gravitate towards a nice, grounded, cohesive, coherent energy. So that's what we're striving for. We do that with a few deep breaths. We do that by placing our attention on our heart. And that just kind of brings everything back into balance. I find it easier when I teach people animal communication if we're outside, because being outside kind of naturally begins to balance us and ground us. We start to get in tune to the rhythms of the earth. It's very more powerful than we think. So by all means, if you can be outside, be outside. But when we do the breath, we're just trying to balance our energy. We are focusing our attention on the heart. And I imagine, I always have people imagine their heart has doors and you're opening those doors. Believe it or not, so many people have their heart closed, especially after the loss of an animal. Our heart closes down or something traumatic. Our heart closes down. And it sometimes takes another animal to open that heart up. When I would teach live animal communication classes, I had a few animal teachers. I had this one kitty, Mama Kitty. Such a sad story how she lost her kittens and she grieved about her kittens. And it was just a heartbreaking story. And she would always go to someone in one of my workshops who would, she was chosen as an animal teacher for them, and in their heart, they would just cry. Their heart would just burst open. I remember the first time ever that I started doing animal communication, and I walked into a barn, and I had no idea why, but I just couldn't stop crying. It's just this opening of the heart. So it's normal. But a lot of people have a closed heart, or they're afraid to open it completely because they're afraid of the pain. So we want to open that heart. So we're going to breathe and try to balance our energy, ground our energy, put our attention on our heart. When we are working with an animal long distance, or even with our own animals, you state your intention. Intention is so important. So my intention is to communicate with so-and-so. And then what I like to have people do is to smile. And the reason, I know it sounds really silly, but the minute you smile, you change all of your energy, everything softens. Everybody tries so hard, and when you're trying too hard, you are kinking the hose. So by smiling, it just changes the whole energy. It just lightens things up. So I know it sounds silly, but it works. So, and then you're going to, I always say the animal's name or call the animal's name in my head a few times to get their attention. And I always ask for permission when I'm working with someone else's animal. And then I tune in. And at the end, I always thank the animal. So that's kind of the steps. But as you become more fluent with it, it will just automatically happen by, grounding yourself, stating your intention to communicate with a certain animal in a certain location, and then tuning in. So the rest of the steps will just kind of blend in, shall we say. So that is a great thing to practice to get you started on your journey of animal communication. And to trust. You have to trust. You have to believe. And I promise you, everybody can do it. We're all born with this ability. So believe it, trust it, have fun with it. Have the enthusiasm of a child. I remember when I first started learning this, it was a little goat who blew my mind. And, I was extremely skeptical until this little goat who I was communicating with asked me what I thought of his ornaments. Now, and prior to that, he's told me my pants were funny, and he told me how handsome he was. And so in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm making this up. And then when he said, what do you think of my ornaments? I was like, well, I don't know where that came from. That just came into my head. And when we had to talk about what we got from the animals, the owner of the barn said that the staff always goes in, when they do the barn, and they always go over to Tyler, the goat stall, and they're like, Tyler, what do you have for ornaments today? Because he always has stuff hanging off his horns. So I needed that validation. So the more you dive in and play around with this, you'll get your validation. So it's easier working with animals you don't know, just because you will try to guess things when you're working with animals that's the logical mind. It doesn't want to be wrong. But when you're working with animals you don't, you know that the stuff coming in is pure. It's authentic, And there's a difference between, you can feel the difference, when it's intuitive or coming from them, it comes in, right? If you were to make it up, it's takes longer. It's harder. There's a difference. There's a difference. If you are sitting here and you're like, okay, my name's Debbie, and how does that feel in your body? And then you were to say, my name's Kevin. How does that feel in your body? It feels different. Or my name's, Amy. It just feels different in your body. So play around with feeling those things and how your body reacts to what is truth and what is not. I know when I'm working with an animal, and a person will say something, or the animal will say something, and I will get goosebumps all over my body. And that is just a visceral feeling of truth for me. So pay attention to all those little things and just have fun. Dive in, have fun with it. And the more you play around with it and go in with a really open, playful attitude, the faster it will come. So good luck. Your animals will thank you, I promise you.